Whoa, buddy. Put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
The Michael Dukes Show.
I have 2 guns, one for each of you.
Firearms Friday.
As Thomas Jefferson stated, it is the right and duty of the people to be at all times armed.
Say hello to my little friend.
I say that the Second Amendment is, in order of importance, the First Amendment. The right to keep and bear arms is the one right that allows rights to exist at all.
The Michael Dukes Show. The right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Firearms
From my cold, dead hands.
Friday.
This is my rifle, this is my gun, this is for fighting, this is for fun.
Firearms Friday.
Firearms Friday, your chance to sound off on issues of a two-way nature right here on the Michael Dukes Show, broadcasting live across the state of Alaska on this, your favorite radio station and or FM translator, and around the world at MichaelDukesShow.com on the internet. Hello, my friends. Hello. It is that one day a week we get a chance to talk about one of our favorite issues, which, of course, is the Second Amendment, gun rights, firearms laws, history, etc., etc., etc. And we're ready to jump in on this cold and rainy and blustery morning down here in South Central Alaska. Not quite sure what it's like where you're at, but oof, man, I'm trying to avoid it. I'm trying to think it's not, but winter's here, right? It's just on our doorstep right now, knocking hard. And we're gonna have to deal with this. All right. Well, let's take a look at what we're going to be covering today. So first and foremost, it's just me and you today. Just me and you. We're going to be talking about things that I care about. I mean, I hope you care about it as well. But we're going to crack into things and see exactly what is happening around the country in regards to gun rights and the Second Amendment. We're going to cover some of the things that are happening in some of the courts. We're going to touch base on things like the latest from the set of the Rust movie shoot. That's still percolating and going on. And we're going to, cover a lot of that stuff. But more importantly, we're also going to take your phone calls. We're going to talk with you. Phone number to call, as always, is, the usual number, I guess I should say, 907-433-3150, 907-433-3150. Today, we're going to be talking about gun Q&A all day. It's just going to be me and you hanging out here for the next couple hours. And so I want to open up the phone lines and just kind of give you the heads up and talk to you, chat about anything related to firearms or the Second Amendment. We live by the mantra around here that there is no such thing as a dumb gun question. And so if you have a question, we will attempt our best to answer it and talk about it. So feel free to give us a call this morning. The phone lines are open and we are ready to go. 907-433-3150. So no guest today. Willie Waffle will be joining us at the end of the program this morning. And we'll be doing the weekend movie and entertainment review. And that's it. I think that's the whole thing. We're ready. That's the show. That was it. Thanks. Have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow. all right, let's. I guess we'll just kind of dive in and get started this morning, and see where the stuff takes us before we get too far along. We got some great stories, including we're going to talk about the double standard of the two-way sanctuary cities and counties. We're going to talk a little bit about what's happening in Massachusetts, kind of an October surprise in Massachusetts. The state of Florida has got some interesting things happening down there, including a new ruling, a legal opinion on stabilizing braces, which I thought was interesting. And as I mentioned, the rust thing, we'll talk about that, and whether or not the chaos in the House could lead to more gun control bills landing on Biden's desk. We'll talk about that as well. So lots of different stories, and of course a little bit of just philosophy behind Firearms Friday and everything else. We're going to talk about those things as well. But hey, look, the phone is already ringing this morning. It's good. That's my favorite part of Firearms Friday, is talking to you to see what you guys have to say. So let's head on over to the phones first, and we'll crack things open there and see if there's a topic or a story that you guys want to talk about that I'm not aware of, or maybe you want to give your opinion on something. So let's jump over there first things first. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
It's Mike. I'm from Wasilla.
Good morning, Mike. What's on your mind, my friend?
Well, I just want to tell you a real quick story. It's not related to anything you're talking about other than firearms. I'm a veteran, and every time I go in for a veteran appointment, their first two questions are you looking at committing suicide, hurting yourself, or hurting others? And I found that interesting. Finally, I asked them one time about it, and basically I was told, well, if you are, then we're going to take your guns. And I was like, oh. And a few years ago, I went in, and I was filling out a form, how you do all your paperwork to see the doctor. And one of the questions on there is, if you're a vet, do you have smoke alarms in your house that have fresh batteries in them, so to speak? And I'm like, wait, what's this got to do with me seeing a doctor? And so I didn't answer it. And I went in and saw the doctor, and I asked her, I said, what's with this question? She says, well, obviously, if you can't keep fresh batteries in your smoke detector, then you can't have a gun because you're not a responsible person. So I got talking to some of the other veterans. One veteran lost his firearms because his wife paid the bills. Another veteran lost his firearms because he was driving an old truck. My whole point to all of this is everybody's all thrilled with these red flag laws. The veterans have been living under the red flag laws for several decades now. This is where it is going for the civilian populace. And the fun part about it is, and this is from my understanding, you have got to get that same doctor to sign off on documentations for me to get my guns back. Get a doctor to sign off on, we're going to let you have your guns back. I've never lost my firearms, but I do know veterans that have. But I thought that would be something that your followers might want to hear about.
Well,
especially the veterans.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's an interesting, Mike, that's an interesting take on things. I mean, I guess this highlights for me a couple different things. It's good to know you guys you're talking about veteran benefits, which are something different, but in the private sector, in the civilian side, in the private sector, this just goes to show you that you should be going to a doctor that more closely matches your philosophy, I think, as far as politically speaking goes. Secondly, it also goes to the kind of goes to the slow creeping below the radar kind of stuff that's going on, where they're asking these kind of questions in the first place. Like you said, the smoke detector, it seems like an innocuous question. I mean, why would you, and then coming out and outright telling you, well, if you can't change your smoke detector batteries, you're not, you're not smart enough or responsible enough to own a firearm. I mean, there's some real kind of scary overreach there. These are all, especially for veterans who, by the way, were the ones that were tasked with defending our country and carrying firearms out there to protect us out in the wild. And then all of a sudden now they can't be responsible with them. And I think if they were looking to defeat or looking to disarm one group, it would be the one that has the training to kind of push back on any kind of bad juju. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, I know exactly what you mean. But veterans they're not given an option on what doctor they're going to go see for the most part. In those days, they weren't. Now we're given a little more of an option. But I have no idea what somebody's political affiliation is. And,
right.
I may not be able to see the same doctor twice. But, it's one of those where what they do with the veterans and the people on Social Security and the elderly, that is what they're going to be doing to the general populace eventually. I remember the day when, I don't remember what it was called, but the people that lived in Alaska and they were older got a monthly check from the dividend. That went away, and now guess what? They're after everybody's dividend.
Right, right.
So I watched the slow creep of it, and you, as you mentioned. But what I'm trying to do is forewarn. This is headed for the civilian population because they start with the military, and nobody, quite frankly, to get anybody to talk about military affairs is at best difficult.
Right.
But I've watched it, I don't have, I got 13 years in the military. I walked out with an honorable discharge and no education benefits. And people go, oh, how could you do that? Well, I'm not going to go into all the ins and outs of it, but that's just the way it worked out. And now, of course, they've changed that back. But yeah, the military is a favorite political football that the politicians love to kick around.
Well, and in a way, you've kind of hit on it, where they're kind of a controlled petri dish for experimentation. You know what I mean? Like, if we can do this, because our veterans, you're kind of trapped in the system. Like you said, you can't choose your doctor for the most part, or, it's not necessarily a free market thing. It's a captive deal. So you're right. They kind of test these things out in this controlled environment to see if anybody squawks or anybody kicks back. And then they could slowly and incrementally institute these kind of things in the public sector. And we've even seen this already. We've seen this in some of the questionnaires from some of the doctor's office, some of these standardized forms, many of which are created by places like, the American Medical, or influenced by, the American Medical Association or other places, which also, by the way, are not your friend if you're a gun owner, because they've advocated publicly to remove guns from the public and to disarm people and do all this kind of stuff. I mean, I know a doctor's got a Hippocratic oath to do no harm, et cetera, but it also should be, they should embrace the whole idea of freedom. And unfortunately, that doesn't always happen. In fact, for the most part, it doesn't seem to happen. And so, yeah, what you're telling is kind of a chilling tale of that kind of slow, deceptive inveigling into your lives of, oh, answer these innocuous questions. Oh, and if you do so, by the way, I mean, I'm interested really when you said the guy got his gun rights taken away because he drove an old truck. What, but because he's frugal and he didn't splurge and buy a $70,000 truck or whatever, that all of a sudden proves that he can't be trusted to own firearms? I mean, some guy has his wife handle the books, and he obviously is not, mentally competent enough because he has his wife do it. I mean, that's some insane stuff right there.
I'm not arguing that a bit. But my point is that these red flag laws scare me from the standpoint of, you hear the liberals say, well, the conservatives shouldn't have guns because they're dangerous. Well, and I've heard conservatives say the same thing. Well, liberals shouldn't have guns because they're not mentally stable, and well, you're a veteran, so you're a killer, and it goes on and on and on. And what concerns me is when one of these groups get into power, and I can give you a beautiful example, the dividend. Who would have ever thought that the state of Alaska would have got their fingers into that, and that a judge would agree with them on it? But when you get a group of people in power, you don't know what's coming next, especially if they've got ideological leanings that are different than yours.
Yeah.
They're going to suddenly decide that every conservative is mentally unstable and therefore shouldn't have a gun.
Yeah. No.
Those red flag laws are dangerous.
No, I agree. I mean, look, there's already laws on the books that allow to, for somebody to be mentally adjudicated, for to be committed, involuntary commitment, and all this kind of stuff. This is just, again, another one of those little kind of nose of the camels under the tent flap to get into those kind of things for people. And it's troubling. And like you said, for veterans who are just trying to utilize some of the few benefits they've been given for serving our country, and then to be put in this kind of position, that's some troubling stuff. And I agree, Mike. It needs to, it definitely needs to be watched out for, and we need to try and reverse it wherever we can. So thank you for your call and for giving us the heads up on that. Maybe we can have some other veterans who are on the program today reach out and talk to us about their experience on that. Because that is troubling. I mean, we should be, first of all, we do a horrible job of taking care of our veterans, but then to add this extra layer of stress on them, if they're like trying to walk the bureaucratic minefield of protecting their rights while still trying to get the help they need. This is why many veterans are, quite honestly, they're afraid of trying to get some of the help they need, like mental health and other things help, because they're afraid of not just the ostracism or the image problem amongst their fellows in the community. They're worried about losing, rights because they were simply trying to get some help for an issue. And that's problematic.
Well, I'm waiting for them. Right now, the military's got a big push to, if you've got any problems with PTSD, get a hold of us, we'll give you a disability. Well, I'm waiting for the day that they say, oh, by the way, if you're disabled from the military because you got PTSD, we're taking your guns, because that is coming, and I'm just waiting for it.
Yeah.
Veteran.
Well, I appreciate it, Mike. Thank you for giving us a call and for sounding off this morning. We loved hearing from you. Appreciate you participating in the show today. Thanks so much. Folks, if you want to sound off on this, I have some thoughts. We're going to talk about this in the next segment. Give us a call, 907-433-3150. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio.
If you missed the show, you can listen to it on your time with Dukes On Demand. Oh, and it's free. Like America used to be. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay, in the break here this morning, that's just scary, man. Just absolutely scary. They've got the statistic out there: a veteran takes their own life every 22 seconds. A veteran somewhere takes their own life in the country, and that's a scary, scary number. And yet, in the attempt to try and stymie that and solve that, they mix in this kind of political BS with that, where they're trying to now decipher whether or not you're, strong enough, competent enough, intellectually honest or disabled enough to be able to have or not have guns. That's crazy. That is absolutely crazy stuff. Anthony said, I used the VA twice after I got out of the Army, and the experience was so utterly terrible, I never went back. They could be handing out gold coins, and I'd still never go back. I mean, that is, oof. That is a statement right there. It definitely is frustrating. When we so what was Brian said, when we were going on the discussions about Obamacare, this was a point I kept trying to make about Obama. Yeah, when you get nationalized health care and everything's the same and everything's cookie cutter, and you don't really end up with much of a choice. Although I will say this is one of the reasons why, if you do have the ability to go out and choose your own physician, if you do have that, you're not in a system like the VA or something else. That's why that's so important. And Mike said, I have no idea what the politics or the philosophies are of a doctor. I try and find that out. Now, and maybe I don't subtly outright just come out and ask, hey, so how do you vote? I mean, I don't do that, but I will steer discussions in a certain way to find out more about people, because I want to be around and be served and give my money to people that kind of, believe along the same lines that I believe, or at least are not actively trying to sabotage me. That's just, and that smoke detector. I mean, first of all, I'm a little shocked that, I'm just a little shocked that they just outright came out and said the quiet part out loud. Well, if you're not competent enough to change your own smoke detector batteries, you're certainly not competent enough to. Wow. There was a question on a questionnaire one time to me at a doctor's office about that, and I just didn't fill it out. It's just because it's none of your business. None ya business. None ya business. All right. Michael, any water in your basement to the bunch rain? No. I live up on a little bit of a knoll, so everything flows away from me anyway. I don't really ever have much problems with the water in that regard, except for when the borough plows all the snow onto the upper side of the cul-de-sac and it turns into a little bit of a lake during breakup. But I still don't get flooding in the house then. So no, I'm doing okay. Although I'm tired of the rain. Yeah. Going here. This snow in Fairbanks is for the birds, says Ken. Is it snowing up in Fairbanks right now? What is it? 23 degrees and snow? Is that where we're at right now? 23 degrees and snow in Fairbanks. Got over 3/4 of an inch of rain. It was just, this whole summer has just kind of sucked balls. It's just, yeah. Anyway, the state is not your friend, says Brian. That's here. Terry says our vets are so abused by our government. This is the thing that makes you not trust. This is the thing that makes you not trust government, right? These kind of actions. All right, let's get back into it. Here we go. The Michael Duke Show, Common Sense Radio. Right now.
What the hell's an assault weapon?
If we could just figure out how to get all of the murder guns and the attack guns and not keep selling those to people and just sell protection guns, I think that would be great and solve a lot of problems.
Does this mean that if we hurt your feelings, you'd consider the Michael Dukes Show assault radio? Okay, we can live with that. Here's Michael Dukes.
Yeah, I mean, why would you buy murder guns? I mean, I just think that's ridiculous. Nobody wants to buy murder guns. I very specifically say I only want to see the protection guns today. That's all I want to see. You keep those murder guns in the back where they cackle together evilly. I mean, it's a joke, right? But it is, with the anthropomorphizing of the firearm in pretty much all of modern day culture, like somehow it is the evil influencer and all these people were just innocent victims of the firearm, that somehow they were perfect angels until somebody placed a firearm near them, and then its evilness just seeped into them and they became evil. Oh, it's a whole thing. So let's continue to talk. I'm intrigued by Mike's commentary, as coming from the VA. Now, so the phone lines are open at 907-433-3150. Has anyone else stumbled across these kinds of questions at your healthcare provider, whether it's VA healthcare or not? Has anybody else ever been asked a question about this? I was saying during the break, I received that question one time on a questionnaire, and I don't remember where it was, but one time on a questionnaire, I received that question. And or a question related to, I don't remember what it was worded at, but kind of one of the, do you own firearms or do you have firearms in your house or something like that? And I just didn't answer it. I mean, you take from that what you will. Either the answer is no or yes, or I'm just not going to answer, or basically it's none of your freaking business. I'm sorry. That's just none of your business. So has anybody else dealt with any of these kind of things? Have you ever had a doctor come out and start quizzing you on your guns or safe gun storage or any of these other things that, while ostensibly could have to do with I guess the public. See, that's the problem. Part of the thing that's going on here is they continue to try and talk about guns as if it's some kind of public health issue, right? They're using terms like epidemic. The gun violence thing is an epidemic of whatever. This is part of the problem. When you have things like this going on, and that's how they're treating it, that's all part and parcel of the problem. For a while now, gun control advocates have been pushing for gun violence to be treated as a public health issue. Now, let's be fair. There could be some upsides to some of this, right? It could be counseling for shooting victims. It could be, offering some kind of mental health help for people who may be struggling with it. Because we understand that most of the, for example, most of the shooters and things like that are going on, most of those people have got a variety of mental health issues. That's not to say that we need to make that right, that fundamental right, contingent on some kind of sign-off from some government professional or bureaucratic lackey somewhere to make sure that we are. But we need to have some of those things there. But the problem with this idea of somehow pushing this as a public health approach is that really it's a smokescreen. People aren't really looking for solutions or looking at the situation around guns as a whole. The problem is that they usually only are coming into it with a confirmed bias on one side, and they're really not looking to solve the problem. To them, they already know the answer. The answer is to remove all guns, so they're utilizing it as a way to eliminate all guns without looking at the full question and the full issue. Primarily the fact that all the rules and laws and things that they propose really only affect one set of, one demographic of society, and that is the law-abiding demographic. They seem to forget that criminals, we keep repeating this, and I'm sorry if this gets repetitive to talk about, but I just want to keep putting this truth out there so that people can start thinking about it in terms of when they talk about this stuff and they look at it, and you can come back with this again and again and again and make them understand that criminals, by the very definition of who they are as a demographic, criminals break the law. They don't care about your laws. I mean, how many times have you heard this over and over and over again? The shooting that happened in Anchorage here earlier this week. Where the police officer, the guy was a struggle. There was a struggle for a firearm that a perpetrator had on him or whatever. And there's a struggle for the gun. He reaches for it. The struggle ensues. He pulls the trigger, shoots himself in the leg, shoots the police officer. So apparently it was a through and through, went through him, hit the police officer, everything else. Turns out felon in possession, not legally allowed to have a gun, has one anyway. We can go through the list every time you turn around and look in story after story, and many, many times it's felon in possession, prohibited person in possession. They're getting guns and they don't care about the law. But see, people who treat gun violence, quote unquote, as a public health nuisance, they think that the answer is, of course, just to disarm the citizenry, and they're trying to find ways to justify that position on the way through. There was a story over from KGW.com that was linked originally from Bearing Arms, talking about Ohio State University and the researchers and a medical professional. There was a roundtable that they held talking about the public health crisis of gun violence. I'm going to read you a quote. The problem of rising gun violence can seem insurmountable, but Portland health professionals expressed hope during a roundtable discussion at Oregon Health and Science University Wednesday morning. The talk between medical experts, law enforcement, and people with lived experience, that's victims, shooting victims, who, should definitely have a seat at the table. Don't get me wrong. But, again, that's just kind of confirmation bias coming in for people who have been monumentally affected or traumatized by such a situation. So, again, the medical experts, law enforcement, and people with lived experience sought to frame the issue through public health, through a public health lens. Now, you know who wasn't involved in this roundtable discussion? Gun safety advocates, gun industry people who can argue from a legal standpoint, advocates for the Second Amendment, and tough on crime folks. None of those folks were involved in this. So you got law enforcement, medical experts, and victims at this roundtable. Do you think that they're going to come to based solely on the makeup of that, do you think that they're going to come to a certain conclusion? I'm asking for a friend. Dr. Kathleen Carlson, the director of Oregon Health and Science University and the OHSU's Gun Violence Prevention Research Center, said this is not a dichotomous gun rights versus gun control issue. This gets us nowhere. I guess trying to explain why they have no gun rights people on the panel. In the fact we've lost ground with the increasing rates of gun injuries and deaths over the last couple decades. Wait, the overall crime and violence rate over the last couple decades has dropped precipitously. We had a spike during COVID and the year following, but that's come back down again, and it's continuing now the previous downward trend. Yet we have more guns in this country than ever before. And yet the trend on a trend line for the last 40 years has been, it's just going down and down and down. But she continues. We've lost ground with increasing rates of gun injuries and deaths over the last couple decades. What we mean to say most simply is we're using multi-layered, multifaceted approaches to understanding the multiple causes of gun violence. And of course, they just got to focus on the gun violence. What about the physical violence? What about the knife violence? What about the vehicular violence? What about, they've got to single out the one type. The story continues. The experts talk through the data points, the troubling trends, the solutions that are working, and the additional steps that need to be taken. In the field of injury science, we often say injuries are not accidents. They're patterned, which means they're predictable, which means they're preventable. Sometimes it feels overwhelming, but we're trained here to take a scientific, strategic approach to overcoming things that seem insurmountable. That's the thing. They think that they can control if they can quantify it, if they can qualify it, if they can do all this. The problem is that they're never looking at a full data set. They're coming in with a preconceived notion and a bias. Their answer is to remove all firearms from the public. The problem is that means they're just going to remove it from the law-abiding public. They don't take into account the fact that guns, in many ways, stop crimes, a multitude of times. Exponentially more times guns are used to stop crimes than they are to commit crimes. They don't take any of that into account. They don't take into account the fact that honest, law-abiding citizens will try to obey their laws, while the criminals will just treat it with... Look at what happened with Michelle Lujan Grisham. With her announcement, she was going to disarm everybody in Albuquerque and all that kind of stuff. She said it in the announcement. This is not going to affect criminals. She said the quiet part out loud. We are going after law-abiding citizens. Criminals aren't going to listen anyway. This is the problem with treating this as a public health emergency. I got a line on hold. Let's go over here real quick, and because I'm coming up on the break. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Well, Mike, it's Fred in Rhode Island. How you been?
Oh, good, Fred. Hey, I'm gonna abuse my privilege with you and ask you to hold because I'd like to talk to you and give you some time, but I'm literally up against the break. So I'm going to put you back on hold and ask you to hold on for just a second. We're going to continue with this. The Michael Duke Show. It is Firearms Friday, your chance to sound off on issues of a 2A nature. We will continue with more right after this. Don't go anywhere.
We're broadcasting live through a series of tubes.
Allowing all of these entities to provide streaming stuff going on the internet.
Well, it's kind of hard to explain. Sorry. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay, we're in the break. Fred is on hold. Fred, thank you for doing that for me. I'm going to leave you on hold during the commercial break here. You can hear what we're saying in the chat room, and I'll be going over some of the stuff that we can talk about, and then I'll take your call here as soon as we returned from the news, from the commercial break. Mike. So you don't care if you're banned from owning a firearm? You must be responding or replying to the problem with I love my broadcast software and my StreamYard stuff and everything else. The problem is that sometimes you guys are replying to other comments, and this doesn't show it to me in like a reply tree. I just see them live as they come in. So sometimes I get a comment like this and I'm like, is it something I said? Or are you replying to something that somebody else said? Anyway, I don't know, Mike. I do care if you're banned from owning a firearm. I don't know what that was about, but I'm throwing that out there. If the government is making the rules and paying the bills, it dictates what questions the doctors must ask and what conditions you must meet to receive service. That's, again, going back to kind of that Obamacare comment and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, this is crazy stuff. Amy, what? Amy said, I had a receptionist ask me at a doctor's office if I was biased. After that, I quit going. If you were biased? What? I mean, wait, what does that mean? She asked you on a questionnaire if you're biased going to the doctor's? Again, at some point, I'm like, what? Excuse me? I mean, because my question to her would have been, are you? I mean, what do you mean? What does that mean? Explain to me what the word biased means. You keep using that word. I don't think it means what you think it means. I just want to, I would have messed with them so bad. Kenneth says, Kenneth says, I was asked this by the VA doctors, then I switched doctors. He said they asked if I had guns in my home and if I felt safe at home. Again, Nunya. I'm sorry. The doctor's looking at the form. I'm sorry, you answered this question, Nunya. What? I'm sorry, what's that? It means none your business, you sketchy bastard. Get away from me. Oh, man. Brian says, I got a couple of good hand load recipes from a former doctor, and I got the use your hearing protection admonition, but never a direct question about guns. Smoke detectors, yeah, but it was National Smoke Detector Month. Look, I know, again, doctors care about people. I mean, that's the primary reason that people become doctors is because they care inordinately about people. And again, they take that Hippocratic oath. The problem is when that care becomes more about control than it does about care, right? We need to protect them from themselves. No, that's not really how it's supposed to work. In a free society, in a true and free libertarian volunteerist society, I should be able to do whatever I want as long as I'm not hurting anybody else. If I'm hurting myself, that's me, right? If I'm snorting Drano or doing whatever I'm doing because I feel like it, that's me, as long as I'm not hurting anybody else. But see, that it becomes control. Wait, Brian just said, this is illegal. A felon with a gun, fake news. Yeah. I mean, how many stories do we see out there that when you read down into the story later on, you find out that they get, one of the charges is felon in possession. One of the charges is, out on parole. One of the charges is violating the terms of his conditional agreement because he had a gun on him, which is, again, felon in possession or you've been I mean, it's crazy. Jeannie says, being an LEO during ACA, the Obama, we saw this firearm question intrusion as the beginning of red flag laws in Washington state. Started with mental illness and ended with infirmity. Every person who was receiving federal benefits was and is a target and still are. It has infected medicine 2.0 and is now part of medical religion. Yes, medicine is a religion, but that's a subject for another day. Yes, I mean, you've seen it. Again, organizations like the American Medical Association and the College of Physicians and all these other medical, again, which are all out there trying to do no harm, which should include not infringing on people's rights, because that's harm, but do no harm. They're the ones out there that are pushing a lot of these gun laws and supporting it. And it's insane. That was insane. Yeah, I felt the quake. Mm-hmm. It rumbled a little bit. My computer monitor went, duh. I'm like, okay, little rumbler. All right, we got to go. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Fred's on the phone. We're going to start with his phone call, and we will continue from there. Please like it, share, like it, follow, do all the stuff. Let's get to it. Here we go.
The Michael Duke Show. Not your daddy. Wait, sorry. Not your daddy? Ooh, not your daddy's talk radio. Whew. I was scared for a second. Thought we were going down. Here's Michael Dukes and the show.
All right, welcome back to the program. Firearms Friday. Gun Q&A all day. Willie Waffle coming up at the end of the show today as usual. Meanwhile, we're talking to you. Before we went to break, I rudely put Fred on hold because Fred is a good Friday caller. He calls in every week from Rhode Island, and I knew that I could abuse the privilege of putting him back on hold. He'd be willing to wait. So I want to say thank you, Fred. So sorry to be rude to you, but I'm a slave to the clock. What is on your mind, my friend? What's going on with you?
Good morning, Mike. Listen, I'm not offended. I've been throwing out better radio shows than this one, so I'm not offended at all.
Wait a minute. Ow.
Listen, anyway, the point I want to make is there's no such thing as gun violence. It's just violence. It's all it is. It has nothing to do with the tool. It has everything to do with the act. But this is what they push. This is what they push on a regular basis for the gun control, the gun control mantra, and it's just a lot of nonsense. And the crazy part is the gun control people sit there and they want to disarm everyone, but on the other hand, I don't know if it's in working in lieu of or in concert with the let's take away the guns. They sit there and they put in attorney generals in many of these lib states, like New York and Oregon and Seattle and California, some of the worst ones, Detroit, some of the worst places around with violence, not necessarily gun violence, but all violence. And what happens is, they sit there and they get these liberal attorney generals with this no bail, low bail,
right?
Revolving door, system of catch and release, and they put them back on the street. And then they wonder why it has such a high crime rate.
Right. Well, that's exactly what we saw in San Francisco, right? It was not attorney generals, it was district attorneys, but same kind of thing where they put liberal social justice type district attorneys in as well. And they do that catch and release. And in San Francisco, they found out that it caused their crime rate to go through the roof. It's the same thing that affected us here in the state of Alaska when they instituted SB 91, where it became a slap on the wrist for crime, that shoplifting became a citation and not an arrestable offense. That kind of crime just went right through the roof because, hey, there's no penalty. I can take whatever I want, walk out. They'll issue me a $50, fine, which I'll never pay. And that's fine. I mean, it's that kind of mentality that helps drive this. And you're right. It is simply violence. Doesn't matter if it's a gun, a stick, a fist, a knife, a car, a frying pan. We don't have appliance violence. We don't have hammer violence. We don't have knife violence, but somehow they're going to separate out the stuff that happens with firearms, and they're going to single it out because that's how you separate and polarize a society.
You're absolutely right. And, it boils down to, I don't know where the attorney general, the liberal attorney generals, doing this, are working in concert with the gun control people, because the higher the crime rate, the more need there is to get rid of the guns. And you sit there and you just connect the dots and you can see where this is going. Connect the dots a little further, I think, and you look at the origin and the origin of where a lot of this is coming from. Once again, the damn globalists are causing a lot of problems. And they don't care about the Constitution. They don't care about the Bill of Rights. They don't care about the United States. They just want to have their way, control everything, control everybody. And I think that's the end game. They had the means to do it. They had the funds to do it. They had the ambition to do it. And if you let them get away with it, they will do it. And I think it's time to, like I say, drag them out of the shadows into the light and let everybody see what's going on.
I don't think that there's any collusion. I think it's just it's a meeting of the minds. I mean, most of these district attorneys and attorney generals who are of that vein, they already believe in gun control wholeheartedly. They don't have to coordinate with any gun control group because they are already true believers. They're already trying, again, they're anthropomorphizing the firearm, that somehow Johnny was a perfect little angel until somebody slipped him a Derringer 22, and all of a sudden he became this evil thug, and it's not his fault. It's society's fault. It's conditions' fault. It's the gun's fault. And that's why they want to let him back out on the street. I don't think there doesn't have to be any collusion. It is a philosophy that they already took into office with him. It is their own bias, writ large, and confirmed right in front of us.
Yeah, you do have a point there. I still think that there's an organized means behind all this. But that's just me. Yeah. The other thing I want to bring up real quick is this whole thing with the doctors and the HIPAA law.
Right.
I mean, they sit there. Yes, they're trying. They have the Hippocratic Oath, and they also have the medical confidentiality. And I think a lot of the stuff at the VA asking these questions, and a lot of the private sector doctors as well. And then they sit there and use it to take your firearms away. I think it's they definitely violating the HIPAA agreement. The HIPAA law. That's between you, and that's between the doctor and the patient, and that's where it begins and ends, and it stays there unless there's a law enforcement warrant to gather information. They have no right, absolutely no right, to go beyond that office. None. And if they use that to turn that into the ATF or the local police or the state police or some other agency to take your firearms, you know what? They're opening up a real can of worms on themselves. And I think that someone maybe should drag a couple of them into court and just let them have it. But, let the lawyers pick their bones clean.
That's an interesting legal argument that I hadn't considered. And I think you might be right. I mean, it would be interesting to see one of these people like Mike was talking about earlier, who's already lost their gun rights due to some commentary to a doctor, to start saying, well, I think we need to take him to court. Now, maybe there's some exemptions in HIPAA that I'm not aware of for them to say, well, the doctor has to report if blah, blah, blah. But I think, drag him out into the light. Like you said, take him to court. Take him to court and say they violated my confidentiality and my privacy and did something to me that was horrific. I mean, I can obviously prove that I'm competent. Just because my wife handles the finances doesn't mean that I'm incompetent. It's a division of labor. She takes care of that. And you violated my confidentiality by putting that out there and infringing on my rights. You're right. I think that's a great idea, Fred. I think that somebody should do that and hit them on that, because they use that as a shield for almost everything else. Why not use it to our own advantage every now and then? Absolutely. Well,
there's a lot of things that are going on in the medical field. I don't know who signed on to what. It's another coordinated effort that I can see, because it's just ironic that so many of them are going down the same path, saying the same thing. it's just a hell of a coincidence. I think there's something more than meets the
Well,
eye here.
I think the problem is that a conspiracy, I mean, you talk about a conspiracy, generally speaking, can't be secret or falls apart with too many people in it. I think you just have a lot of people that kind of believe the same thing, Fred, and they're all working. This goes back to that whole kumbaya mentality of the narrative, that the only way society can move forward is with the direct benevolent intervention of government. And you got a bunch of people who believe that. And so they're all working not together in a coordinated way, but they're all moving in that same direction. It may look like some kind of plot or scheme or coordinated effort, but I think a lot of times it's just a bunch of people who have the same ideology moving in the same direction. I would find it kind of hard to believe that it's some kind of vast conspiracy. I think it's just human nature working out writ large. But anyway, Fred, I really appreciate you calling in, my friend. And again, thank you for letting me put you on hold. Appreciate you calling into the program today. We will talk to you again next week. That's Fred from Rhode Island. That leaves all four lines open. 907-433-3150, 907-433-3150. Kyle in the chat room on YouTube says the left just keeps talking about it to make gun violence appear worse than it is. They can rule over us lots easier with a disarmed populace. That's why, again, they keep focusing on this. Look, it's the verbiage, right? I've talked about this for years, that the left is very good at controlling the narrative and the verbiage to use things. I mean, the whole term assault rifle. Well, what is it? Nobody can really define what it is. I mean, there's no true definition. It's whatever they want it to be. Gun violence is something else. Like I said, they're not separating out violence of a blackjack or a lead sap. They're not signaling out violence of fisticuffs and fists and feet. Which, by the way, kill more people than all the people killed with rifles every year by a multi. They're not talking about edged weapon violence for knives and swords and machetes, or tool violence for hammers or baseball bats, sport equipment violence. I mean, you just don't see that. But gun violence, it is about fear. It's about genning up that fear, just like we saw, writ large during COVID, where all that fear allowed people to be more controllable. That's why the left just keeps talking about it. But see, even they don't know what gun violence entails, because most of the time in the gun violence category, they're including things like suicide. And while I agree a suicide is an act of violence, but it's against yourself, do you think that taking away firearms is going to stop people killing themselves? I mean, Japan proves that's not the case. So is it really, truthfully, a scientific measure or a good? No, it's about instilling fear, motivating people through fear. That's what it's about. Because even they can't decide what really, truly constitutes gun violence in a truthful manner. All right, that was hour one. Oof, we got to go. Hour two, dead ahead, The Michael Duke Show. Damn, that is the fastest hour in radio ever. Jeannie says, can you say echo room, says Gordon? I don't know. Is there an echo, or are you talking about the echo chamber effect here in the thing? Jeannie says, what makes them think that the law-abiding citizen won't become a criminal and retain their firearms? I don't think they care at that point, Jeannie. I really don't think they care. I think that they want to. Again, this is the whole Saul Alinsky, Cloward and Piven, kind of separate and, divide and, but you're right. I mean, what's the old axiom that, has been around since, the Stone Age? When guns are outlawed, only outlaws will have guns. And at one point you're like, well, right, of course, because outlaws are criminals and they're going to have guns. No. When guns are outlawed, only outlaws will have guns. What you're doing is you will be forcing a huge selection or slice of the population who refuses to comply, and you're going to criminalize honest law-abiding citizens, which plays into their narrative too. Oh, look, now we can come arrest you and have control over you that way, because you were a law-abiding citizen until we put this law up there, and then you refused to comply, and now you're a criminal. Yeah. I think that's the heart of that whole thing right there. is maybe they do want to criminalize a huge selection. I don't think they understand how many people in the country would refuse to comply. I mean, look at the compliance rate on the New York SAFE Act. Look at the compliance rate in Connecticut after Newtown, and they put their assault weapons ban in. I mean, those compliance rates on those laws are in the single digits, like 4 and 5%, right? So there's a whole ton of people who basically said, we will not comply. In New York, not a conservative bastion of freedom in this country. So what do you think would happen if you did that in Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, Arizona, Alaska, where you tried to do something like that? What do you think is going to happen? Texas. Going through. I did not see. I didn't see. No, Randy's asking about a stabbing that happened yesterday in New York City. Yeah, no, there you go. Jeffrey says Nunya and Nunya Ave, which is Nunya business. Go to Decoy Voice on YouTube and watch his commentary. Interesting take. Decoy Voice is one of my favorite one of my favorite YouTubers. And I think I could safely say his exposure has gone up tremendously in just the few, I guess it's been a couple months since I started watching him. His subscription he's almost doubled in subscribers. I think he's upwards of 400,000 right now or something, or almost 500,000. That guy, he's got it. It's concise, lighthearted commentary is what he says, and that's exactly it. You should go watch Decoy Voice on YouTube. I've been trying to get him on the program. I've reached out to him a couple times trying to get him on the program to talk about it, but it's good. As a heating tech electrician, I will refute that there's no such thing as appliance violence. I apply violence to appliances whenever needed. Yeah. Oh man, that's okay. All this violence, says Kyle, is by design. I predict it will get a whole lot worse before it gets better. Might want to prepare just a little. I mean, yeah, I've kind of said that for years, that it's all by design. You may want to pay attention to it. You may want to, Bill says, medical personnel are required to report anyone that they believe are a danger to themselves or others. HIPAA goes out the window. And see, here's where they can twist themselves into ethical knots by providing all these weird questions, these kind of fringe questions. When you could say, do you have smoke detectors in your house with fresh batteries? And somebody says, I've got smoke detectors, but I haven't changed the batteries yet. And they say, oh my God, they're a danger to themselves and others. When they can twist themselves into those kind of pretzels, those mental gymnastics, oof. I mean, whoa. Tawny's right. Terms and words matter. Gun violence, health crisis, those kind of things. That's all there. Time flies when you're having fun. Yeah, that was the whole. Oh, there was echo chamber with the Oregon gathering is what Gordon was talking about. Thank you, Gordon. Yeah, no, the time flies. That was a fast hour. I've got another line on hold. I'm going to talk to you here in just a second, caller. Amy says, I didn't know what biased means. That's why I didn't answer her question. The receptionist did ask me if I was male or female. I didn't answer that question either. I'm assuming since her name is Amy, that Amy is a female. And I'm assuming that probably she's very obviously a female. If I will be honest with you, if a doctor's office asked me that question, I'd be like, well, if you don't know, I don't think you're a good fit for me. If you don't know by my appearance whether I'm a male or a female, I'm not sure I could trust you with my health care. Because if I'm a male, I definitely don't want to try and have you try and give me a pap smear. You know what I mean? or or a female. I don't want a prostate check. You know what I mean? If you can't figure that out, we got problems. We got bigger problems. All right. I was going to ask the caller's name, but I just got on that rant, and so we're going to continue here. Jumping back into it, the Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. Hour 2 starts right now. We'll start off with the phone calls and go from there. Back with more right after this.
Whoa, buddy. Put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
The Michael Duke Show.
I have 2 guns, one for each of you.
Firearms Friday.
As Thomas Jefferson stated, it is the right and duty of the people to be at all times armed.
Say hello to my little friend.
I say that the Second Amendment is, in order of importance, the First Amendment. The right to keep and bear arms is the one right that allows rights to exist at all.
The Michael Duke Show. The right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Firearms.
From my cold, dead hands.
Friday.
This is my rifle, this is my gun, this is for fighting, this is for fun.
Firearms Friday.
This is for fighting, and this is for fun. This is Firearms Friday. You better run. I don't know. I just, welcome back to the program. It is hour 2 of the big radio broadcast, the fastest 2 hours in radio. It is Firearms Friday. Every week we talk about guns and the Second Amendment and firearms issues here in America. And boy, howdy, how did we get to hour 2 already? It's here, and we've got phone lines open. It's open line, open forum Q&A all day today. As long as it's firearms related, we want to talk about it. 907-433-3150. And we've got one line on hold that start off. So as always, phone calls reign supreme. We're going to start off over there, and we'll kick things off and see what you guys have to say. Let's go over here. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Good morning, Michael. This is Tom from Kasilof. How are you today?
I'm doing fine, Tom. What is on your mind down there on the peninsula?
Well, I was going to call you last week, but I wasn't quite ready yet to talk about it. But I had a real-life incident happen about a week and a half ago with me. And I felt it was important that you and our listeners hear about it and get some takeaways from it.
We're all ears.
11 o'clock at night, I take my dog out to go to the bathroom. And I've got a very powerful flashlight. And all of a sudden I see a wild rabbit that we have here on our property duck underneath my deck. And I flash the light over there. As I do, I see something. I bring the light back, and there's an individual standing there 25 feet away from me, 10 feet from my house, pointing both hands directly towards me. And I had no doubt in my mind that there was something in their hands, and I was going to be shot. Here I am, 63 years old, been a gun person all my life, got concealed carry, practice plans, blah, 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 blah. And I'm standing there without a firearm on my own property.
Oh, man, that's got to be a feeling.
I screamed my wife's name as loud as I could and ran with my dog back to the house. My property, the way it lays, I have to circle back around and go up the deck, and I'd have to come back up the deck, which would bring me directly towards that person. They'd take 5 steps forward, and I'd be head on with them. The entire time, Michael, I'm thinking, why haven't I been shot? Why am I not dead? And I get into the house, call 911, and I'm on the phone with the troopers. And there's some takeaways as we go through this I think it's important that people hear. I'm in Kasilof. It took 20 minutes on the phone for him to show up.
Right.
I get it. I know where I am. I know the lack of troopers. But 3 of them did show up. While they were on their way, I was laying on my dog. My wife's on the ground. I grabbed my firearm, which has been my standby go-to gun. It's been sitting by the door. And it's an FN-57. And it's kind of funny. The troopers asked me what type of gun I have. And I told them, so they realized it's not a snub-nosed 38. And one of the takeaways as I'm laying there waiting, the troopers are on the phone. I'm laying on my dog with my right hand holding him down. I'm right-handed. And I guess we can fast forward just a little bit. It's probably been a year since I've shot that gun. So we'll just use the word training here as a should have. Laying there with my gun in my left hand, and a couple minutes into the phone call, I realized that I'm right-handed. I better turn that safety off. So I actually reach over with my right hand and my thumb, and I flip the safety off. A couple minutes later, I realize, oh, this is the ambidextrous. I don't know if you know the FN-57, but
it's got a safety on both sides, right?
From both hands equally. So my finger pushes the safety back on. Troopers show up. They were really good. They asked me to secure my firearm. I did before they came to the door. They searched the property, searched my shop. I got a big shop. They searched the cars. They searched everywhere. Found nobody. You know, I live in a place where the guy could have been 20 feet off the road watching the whole thing.
Right.
So after they leave, it was a long night. I'm still shaking. I still get chills from my head to my toe when I tell the story. Just bone-chilling chills. I've never had anything like that happen to me. And at the end of the departure of the troopers, I looked at them and I said, I'm sure if I had a firearm, I'd probably be going home with you guys tonight. And they assured me, they said, based on what you've told us, there was a perceived threat on your property, 10 feet from your house, 25 feet from you, someone, and I'm being very clear here, I did not see a gun, but the person was standing there in a position where both arms were extended straight forward at me. It's the only position you have unless you have something in your hands.
Right, like the classic Weaver style position, right? Like
So,
a shooting stance, yeah.
Absolutely. So they looked at me and they said, you had a perceived threat in your life on your property, 11 o'clock at night, didn't belong to be there. You know, the guy didn't come out, hey, sorry to scare you, you know, looking for my dog, right? The threat was there. And they told me that we would have probably done the same thing. So I'm not throwing any troopers under the bus or giving permission to anybody what the troopers said, but given the situation, there was a perceived threat in my life.
Right.
So kind of backing into the whole thing now, I've got security cameras out of my garage, and there's one camera that points forward, and it's 80 yards away, so it's not a lot of detail. But you can see me coming out of the house on security cameras, and I'm flashing my light. And as I'm walking down my steps, you can see an image come out behind the house and then retreat back in. So they were in the dark. They were safe. They could have stayed there. And one of the things I didn't recall that night was I'm outside with my flashlight looking for bear, right? Because we got bear in the area. So I'm always flashing the light all around. Well, exactly where that person was, I probably flashed the light there about 6 times. Exactly where that person was. And then all of a sudden, when the rabbit ducked under the deck, I brought the light back, and there it was. So he was in the dark. He was safe. He could have stayed there. And all of a sudden, he stepped out. So I don't know what that means. I don't know if we got a little bit of meth issue in our neighborhood here just started happening. If it's somebody wanting to mess with me, it was really bizarre that they weren't there. but we saw them pop out behind the car, and they were in the dark.
Right.
So a couple of takeaways here. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, so give me your lessons learned here.
You say something, Mike?
Yeah, no. So I was just going to say, give me your lessons learned, your takeaways, what in an after action review, what do you think you could have done differently, or what should you do?
Well, again, training. There's my go-to gun that's sitting by the door. Probably haven't shot it in a year. I've chosen that gun because it's a beautiful weapon. Well, it's also expensive to shoot. So there's one of my reasons I don't shoot a lot. So I did take the gun out the next day, ran 40 rounds through it. I had a gallon of Sunny D that was expired in April, so it became a good target. And I shot it. Guess what? Round 2 didn't load. Got 20 bullets in that gun, and round 2 didn't load.
Dang.
Never failed on me before.
Right.
And what I have found with, I've got a few firearms that have high capacity magazines, that those last couple are always kind of tough to shove in there. And I got one gun that I don't put a couple in the end because of it. So that's one takeaway. I took a couple of bullets out, so I got 18 instead of 20. I don't think I'll be hurting there. The other thing is the following night, I threw my custom holster I had made for the gun, shoulder holster, and I went out with that on. And I'm thinking to myself while I'm out there going, in that incident, I didn't have 2 seconds to grab my gun. That was not afforded to me. I had a half a second. So now I got a routine with the gun in my hand, and the dog's half hitch tied to my left hand and my flashlight. I've set a whole routine that I go through. And I just came back in before I got on the phone with you. And it's still disturbing. I walk out there going, I can be attacked from any angle here.
Yeah.
I was absolutely my safety and my security that I have sitting down here in Kasilof was taken away from me.
Yeah,
by this individual.
It's violating to have that kind of stuff happen. It is violating. Let me.
That's an excellent. That's an excellent word, violating.
Let me give you, just from the outsider's perspective, a couple things that I see. People, especially concealed carry holders, they have a tendency when they get home to feel like they can completely let their guard down. I mean, I've known people who basically they get home and they go to their bedroom. Yep. Their bedroom may be upstairs, and they disarm themselves upstairs, so their firearm is now 40 feet away from them somewhere else. And then they go back down. They may or may not lock their doors. They may or not, you've got to, I'm not saying that you have to constantly be paranoid or on a case of alert, but when I take my firearm off, I place it right there near my door. So that if I need to go somewhere, or if I need to go outside, or if I need to respond to something, I have a firearm present. I've got another firearm in my bedroom. I'm not worried about that. There's, that's fine, everything else. But we just don't think about that. We think once we're in our castle, it's all good. It's not. It cannot, like you said, you're a prime example there. If we go out at night, exactly. I mean, if you're concerned about bears with it and you got your big flashlight because you're concerned about bears, what are you going to do if you confront one? Why don't you have a firearm then, right? That kind of thing. This is all hindsight stuff that you can come out. And the training, do you do dry fire?
Right.
Do you do dry firing exercises, Tom?
No, I don't.
I got to tell you.
Which I should.
Yeah, no, I mean, because I agree with you. Shooting these days is expensive. And it's probably been over a year since I've been to a range to shoot my concealed carry pistol. But I very consistently do dry fire exercises with my concealed carry pistol, so that I'm it's intimately familiar. I have magazines that have dummy rounds in them, and I do dry fire exercises. I do malfunction drills, so if that second round doesn't load properly, I can clear it immediately. I mean, those are things that you can do that are not expensive, that take just a few minutes a week. You dry fire practice once or twice a week with that firearm for 10 or 15 minutes. And you will become intimate. It will become second nature. And like you said, think about things like holding the dog down with the dominant hand versus the weak hand. I mean, these are all things that are good, and I'm glad you made it through, and I'm glad you're learning these lessons, and I'm glad you're sharing it with us so that we can learn from it ourselves. We live in dangerous times. I mean, I don't think it's necessarily any more dangerous than it was a while ago, but we live in this false sense of security. I think that we think that things can't happen to us because they're at our home. That's why it feels so violating, because this is our safe space. But there are bad people out there who will do bad things, and we have to think about that as we go through. Final thoughts, Tom, before I let you go.
Well, I think I covered everything. It was a chilling moment for me, and and when the amazing thing is that I've been around guns all my life. I have guns laying all over my property. They're always at the ready, but it wasn't in my hand that night.
Yeah, I know.
And that's kind of the chilling part.
Yeah. Well, and when seconds counts, the troopers are only 20 minutes away, right?
You broke up, Michael.
I said when seconds count, the troopers are only 20 minutes away, right?
Still there.
I mean, that's
Yeah, and that's what it was. I was 20 minutes in my house with my wife and my dog, with somebody lurking outside. That's a long time.
20 minutes when you're under that kind of pressure is an eternity. I can guarantee you it's an eternity. Well, Tom, I appreciate you sharing the story. Maybe other people can learn some lessons from that, and I appreciate you calling in and joining us today. Thank you very much.
All right, sir. You have a great day.
Folks, I'm up against the break. I've got one other line on hold. Caller, hold the line for just a second. I'm going to be right back to you here in a second. I'm going to get your name and where you're calling from, and then we're going to continue. Next segment coming up, The Michael Dukes Show, Common Sense, Liberty-Based, Free Thinking Radio. We'll talk a little bit more about Tom's experience here on the other side as well. We'll be back with more right after this.
Running on 100% pure beard power. Oh, also some coffee. We dip our beard in coffee.
Ha, nice beard.
The Michael Dukes Show.
All right, we're in the break right now. Let me go over to the caller first to get where they're calling from and what their name is. And thanks for holding, caller. That was a long one. Good story. But let me get your name and where you're calling from.
Hey, Mike. My name's John. I'm calling from Fairbanks.
Okay, John. If you'll hold the line, I'll be right back to you. And you'll be first up. We'll start right off with your call. So thank you for being patient here. Let me write this down so that I can remember, because by the time this is over, I will have already forgotten John's name. I guarantee it. Let me go back to the chat room and see what's going on. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Greg says, "Oh crap." That was his response to the story. And then he also said, practice scenarios are important. Do you carry in condition 1? Do you train to react correctly? Condition 1, by the way, is cocked and locked, ready to go. Condition 1 on a Colt 1911, for example, is 1 in the chamber, hammer back, safety on. It's ready to go. You're not fiddle farting around trying to rack the slide or charge the gun or do whatever. It's I got to tell you, do you train correctly? And I will say the thing that changed my life more than anything else in being a firearms person and carrying a firearm is dry firing. Like he said, he hadn't been to the range in a year. I don't think it's probably been over a year since I've been to the range with my concealed carry pistol. But I will tell you, that dry fire makes you intimately familiar with that firearm. And again, it can, for bad magazine locks, where it doesn't seat properly, stovepipes, some kind of malfunction, the malfunction drills, all the things you can do, trigger squeeze, it definitely will help you along the lines. But again, don't just hit your house, close the front door and feel like, now I'm safe. If you've got dogs, if you have to go outside, if you have to do these things, you should be thinking about that, especially if you live out in the hinterlands, or as he said, he's got a rising meth problem in his community. That's, We have a neighborhood. I live on the end of a cul-de-sac, and the three of us neighbors who live on this end of this cul-de-sac are always watching for cars that come down, because a lot of times cars were cruising by slowly. Like, I've got cameras. He has cameras, but his camera's 80 yards away. Invest in a new camera. Put a camera pointing right at the spot where this person was. It sounds like a good place to hide. Put a camera in there. You can get a Ring camera or a Wise camera for $100. Store it all to the cloud. Know what's going on. There's hindsight is perfect, right? I can't criticize Tom for anything that went on there, because that's the way most people are. Do I go outside and have my firearm? If I'm at home, do I have my firearm with me every time I go outside? No. If it's dark, sure, sometimes. But it's always there and available. Now, if I was going to go out walking in the woods, if I had a bear problem, yeah, I'd constantly be carrying that, because a flashlight's not going to do much against the bear. I'll be honest with you. I have a flashlight on my pistol. You want to talk about trying to juggle the dog, a flashlight, a pistol all at the same time? I've got a flashlight on my pistol. I just use the flashlight of my pistol to shine the thing around, if that's what it is. I don't know. This is situational awareness. Yes. I mean, you just constantly got to be, you constantly got to be thinking about that. Silent motion lights, dog, pack a gun, or keep it close, says Mike. Yeah. All those things. And again, hindsight is perfect, but that's where we go. Greg did ask, if you replace the muzzle brake with a suppressor, would it increase or decrease recoil? I would think, just based on the physics of it, that it would probably increase recoil, because the muzzle brake allows the gases to escape and in part to reduce that recoil, while the suppressor captures that. It may slow it down, but I would say probably on a balance it would increase, maybe not significantly, but because it captures the recoil, it captures the gas that causes the recoil, it would probably increase, would be my guess, Greg. I'm not an expert on that, but just based on the physics of how it works, I would assume that it could slightly increase the recoil. That would be my thing, Get some tactical training and money well spent. Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, here we go, folks. Jumping back into it, the Michael Duke Show, Common Sense Radio.
What the hell is an assault weapon? Does that mean that if we hurt your feelings, you should consider the Michael Dukes Show assault radio? Okay, we can accept that. Here's Michael Dukes. Kind of a dick, but somewhat funny.
I'm not real. What? That was rude. All right, we're going to continue on and talk more about our calls and everything else, but we've got John in Fairbanks. He's been on hold for a while. He was there through Tom's call. I appreciate his patience. Let's get over there and see what he has to say. Good morning, John. What's on your mind?
Good morning, Mike. I'm calling because I have a question. It's a basic question that probably majority of your audience probably has a good answer to, but I'm an owner of several weapons, and I actually have 22s for my kids. And I used to be very religious on cleaning those things often, but recently we've gone on several trips and we've not cleaned the 22s in a while. We've got a Henry and a Ruger. I know for sure that was used. How long usually can you go with 22s without cleaning the bores or anything?
I would say that
without causing damage.
Well, I mean, if damage, it's damage versus reliability, right? Especially with a Ruger, a 10-22. 22 is a very dirty round. It is not it doesn't do a great job in that. And, it could be, you could shoot 100, 200, 300 rounds and it's dirty enough to where you start seeing malfunctions. So if it was me, I mean, I would be cleaning that out, at least running a patch or two through it and doing some stuff every, 100 rounds, because it's a very dirty round. And it just doesn't do a great job of, blasting all the residue out when it comes out. And so, your mileage may vary, but I generally speaking, if I take my 22s out and I shoot them, I always at least run a couple patches through it if I don't do a full, complete, wipe down, clean out, scrubbing, whatever, because especially the 10-22, it just does not it will not, if it gets dirty, it will not reliably cycle, and it will be an exercise in complete frustration if you don't do it. But I mean, again, I would say every 100 rounds you should at least patch it out, and if not, give it a pretty good, thorough examination and cleaning, and give that a shot. But yeah, that is probably one of the dirtiest guns, in most people's gun collection. That 22 is probably one of the dirtiest guns that you'll own, just because of the way that the powder and the little primer, the whole thing works.
Okay, I appreciate it, Mike. I'm gonna get off here. Thanks.
All right.
Appreciate what you do.
Thank you, John. I appreciate you waiting, and thanks for asking the question. I think it's a valid question. Cleaning your firearms, obviously something you should do, with good. I mean, I guess it also depends on the gun, I mean, I have an AK-47 that I have shot several thousand rounds through, and it just keeps going. I mean, that's the benefit of an AK-47, right? It doesn't have the tolerances that an AR-15, does. Direct gas impingement versus piston driven, and everything else. But it just depends. But yeah, keep that thing clean. Keep it clean. And I would say every 100 rounds is probably a good move here. Let's go back over to the phones. I got another call here. 907-433-3150, 907-433-3150. We go over here and we say, good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
This is Randy.
Hello, Randy. What's on your mind?
Oh, hi there. I saw a very disturbing video yesterday on the Fox News on the internet, and it was a man who was sitting with his girlfriend on a bench, and he was stabbed to death in the heart by a mad dog assailant. He was sitting there on the bench with his girlfriend, and the assailant, the killer, just walked by them in front of him, but just kept on going down the sidewalk. And then about that time, he and his girlfriend decided to get up, and they walked in the direction that the killer had gone. But then the killer stopped to kick over some scooters or bicycle or something on the sidewalk, and so the man and his girlfriend paused, because something was going on there. And then the killer turned around and said, "What the F are you looking at?" And then started coming toward him. And the guy, whose name was Ryan Carson, 32, started kind of backing up and kind of trying to talk him down or whatever. But he said the words, "Chill, chill." And I just wonder if that's the wrong thing to say. I mean, it's a tragic thing to see here on video. It just happened to be some surveillance camera caught the whole thing, including the sound. And the chill, chill sounds like kill, kill, rhymes with that. I don't know if that's the right thing to say. in other words, I was watching this horrific video to see what lessons can be learned. But one thing is, the guy, as he was walking back, his girlfriend was there, so that complicates things. You can't just run off at top speed because you're leaving your girlfriend there. You can't do that. So he was kind of backing up, and as the killer was approaching him, he was kind of the victim was kind of poking a punch in the air but not making contact, and continued backing up. But then he trips over the bench that he and the girlfriend were just sitting at. So that's the lesson. Don't trip over something that's behind you. It's hard to be looking back behind you if someone's coming at you.
Sure.
And maybe don't say the words chill, chill. They say something else to try to defuse basically was a rabid mad dog person,
Yeah. I would say
that, but
first,
that was the weird one.
He was attempting to de-escalate. The words chill, I mean, it could be cool off, it could be stop, it could be whatever. I don't think the words at that point would have mattered. Obviously, based on the story you're describing, the man who attacked them was probably mentally unstable and out of his mind. But you're right. I mean, situational awareness, what's behind me, where am I, what's going on, keeping his girlfriend out of harm's way, keeping her safe. I mean, this is a tragic situation. And again, people, just not paying attention, maybe not catching the cues of, somebody who's going on a rampage and kicking over bikes and scooters and stuff like that. Maybe you immediately move off. Maybe you immediately move away. Was he looking at the guy's hands? Did the guy visibly have a knife? I mean, there's a lot of questions there. I haven't seen the video and I don't know. But I mean, his attempts to say chill, chill is a de-escalation. And that, I mean, I think de-escalation is always good. but your kind of situational awareness to know what's around you, to know that if you are backing up, that you're remembering that you just stepped up off of a bench and you might tumble over it. Maybe you need to change the direction you're going. I mean, that's a split-second decision. There's a lot of things that are, what ifs that are going on there. That's a frightening situation. That's something that anybody can be faced with. And it's a tough deal. I don't know what the answer is. I'll have to go out and watch the video, I guess, and see what it looked like. But again, I think people, especially, living in some of these cities and stuff, and if they're in a park, maybe they feel safe when they shouldn't be. They should always be paying attention. I always have situational awareness when I'm out there trying to figure out what's going on, because you just never know. People can do bad things and people can change in an instant, especially, somebody like you said, this mad dog killer. This can be a tough situation. Thank you, Randy, for calling in. Thank you to Tom and John as well for this hour. Tom's call was very, very good. And maybe next week we can analyze this and kind of give it a little bit of a once over and take a look at it. My God, this is the fastest 2 hours in radio today. All right, we got more coming up. We're going to continue. Willie Waffle is going to be joining us in a few minutes for wafflemovies.com. We're going to be talking about the streaming and the movies and the entertainment news and everything else. That's all coming up. The Michael Dukes Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free thing in radio.
Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
How did we get to the third segment already? Holy crap. That's insane. Insane. Tom said he did put up more cameras and more lights. Good. And then good. That's a good call. I mean, at this point, cameras are cheap, man. For $100, you can put up a night vision camera, motion activated night vision camera, and you could put it up there anywhere you want. They've got wireless ones. They got ones that operate on solar. They got ones that are battery powered. It's a simple thing to do. Just go ahead and light it up, and keep that going. Cockroaches like the dark. Maybe you put a motion light on your camera along with or if you just want to keep an eye on it, you could put the camera up without the lights. It's, there's totally low. Bill, let's see. Remember to move. A moving target is hard to hit. Muzzle flash in the dark is like saying, "Here I am." Move. Shoot, move, assess, reload, shoot, move. Right, exactly. My SIG, says Jim, is a 1911 design, and I just finished defensive pistol level 2. 500 rounds through a subcompact makes you very familiar. Absolutely. No, more shooting is definitely the way to go. More training is definitely where you want to be. On that kind of stuff. And the dry fire, although you don't get the effective recoil and everything else, you do get trigger pull, you get a lot of familiarity, and especially if you're practicing the malfunction drills and things like that, it becomes second nature. The more you do it, if you're doing it, if you do it twice a week, that's 100 times a year that you're practicing malfunction drills, handling the firearm, holstering, unholstering, and reholstering your pistol. I mean, all those kind of things. Reloads, that kind of stuff, tap, rack, bang, the whole deal. Those are all great ideas, and they make you, and then again, if you can go to the range and afford going to the range and do it as frequently as possible, there you go. Bill says a streamlight with a strobe mode on your favorite home defense iron does wonders on someone's vision in the dark, gives you a 3-second advantage. Yeah. Streamlight, Surefire, they all make great weapons lights, and some of them do have like a strobe mode. Others are just like super bright. I don't understand why more people in Alaska don't have flashlights on their defensive pistols. I've never understood that. I carry 2 flashlights with me at all time, one on my pistol and one in my pocket. I've got a Streamlight, a little micro Streamlight that I carry. It's a size, I mean, it's this big and it's the size of my finger. And it sits in my pocket. Why? Because it's dark here all the time. And you never know. I mean, I use that thing multiple times a week because I'm looking for something or it's dark and I'm trying not to wake Terry up or whatever. I'm constantly using that flashlight all the time. Having a flashlight on your firearm just makes sense. And, when you have your holsters made, once you have a holster made, like I have a holster for my concealed carry pistol that is formed around the firearm with the light on it. Now, if I ever take the light off, the holster still works for the firearm. It still works for the firearm, even if I have it off. But I don't know why I've had that thing on there for 8 years. I don't think I've ever taken that flashlight off, that weapons light off there. Why do you not have that on there? Decoy Voice did a commentary on, it must have been on that stabbing. All right, well, I'll go take a look at that. Maybe a call with Donna Anthony. Yeah, maybe next week we should talk with Donna Anthony. Draw from concealed. Yeah, I mean, that's part of the dry fire exercise, right? You wear your pistol like you would wear it normally every day. You wear your clothes that you would wear every day, and you unload it, dummy rounds, the whole thing. You make it safe, and then you draw from. You just practice like, here's where it is. No hands, blah blah blah. Okay, got to draw. Present. Malfunction, fixed. Boom, boom. You're done. Back in. Practice that. Gun ignorance. Didn't know you could put a light on a gun. Yeah, absolutely. They've made them for years. And they are excellent. And not only that, because they are not only help you see, there can be a non-lethal deterrent, as Bill said. Some of them, mine, I don't have the strobe function on mine. I didn't want anything too complicated. I just wanted to flick it be on, flick it be off. I didn't want the strobe or the laser or anything else. I just wanted a light. But you can get them where they strobe and do everything else. It's important. And I don't know why more people in Alaska don't carry a flash. I mean, a flashlight in your fire. But I mean, why do you just not have a flashlight in your pocket? I'm not talking about a big mag light, D-cell mag light. I'm talking about, I got this little, I've had it for years. I bought 2. I've still got the other one when this one breaks. I use it every week. I just don't do, yeah. All right. Well, we're coming up on it here. We're jumping back into it. The Michael Dukes Show. Phones are buzzing. We're ready to go. Let's get to it. Common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. Here we go. Whoa. Oh, the weekend. It's almost here. I mean, it's literally like, why do I have to adult today? All right, we're going to do it, though. It's we're leaving the show with a big smile on our face and an up note. Let's talk about movies, streams, entertainment. To do that with us is our genius, resident, evil genius, Willie Waffle. Cackle mightily, my friend. What's happening?
Man, for a minute there, I thought you replaced me until you said evil genius. Then I was like, oh, yeah. That's
exactly.
Me, baby.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Genius, no. Evil genius, yes. All right. Okay.
Yes.
Wait. That didn't sound right. All right. Let's get started. You and I we talked about it a few times ago that all the streaming services are getting on board with, hey, these chumps we suckered them in. Now's the time. First taste is free. Let's now we'll crack up the price. Everybody's raising their prices. I just got a notification from Disney that my $7.99 a month plan is going up to $14 next month. Yeah, I'm just like, oh, okay. But Disney's not the only one.
No, not at all. I mean, Discovery Plus this week announced that they're raising prices, that their ad-free monthly subscription is going to go up to $8.99 starting like the next billing cycle on November 2nd.
Yeah.
So it already happened.
Yeah.
So you're in now.
Yeah.
So that's happening. And I think one of the biggest. I don't know if it's a big surprise. I mean, let's be honest. We all kind of knew this was going to happen, right? All these companies are losing money during the strike, and they're going to want to make it up, and they're not going to make it up out of their own pockets. No, they're going to make it up out of your pocket and my pocket. And the Wall Street Journal has already reported that Netflix is like, oh yeah, when the strike's over, we're totally raising prices.
Yeah, so
we're totally going to do it.
Right. So who pays for the strikes? Us. I mean, that's what it all comes down to, right? We pay for the strikes, no matter who's striking. We pay for it.
Absolutely, it's like everything else in life. Like, who's paying for COVID? Who's paying for inflation?
Right.
It's us. It's us.
Well,
it's
so
us.
let's recap here. What was it? Hulu just a month or two ago. Same thing. We'll do it now. Now there's 2 tiers. Now there's ad supported and ad free. Okay, and then Netflix is like, okay, ad free, and they've already upped it once. Now they're going to up it again after the strike's over. Oh God! And now Discovery and now Disney. When I was bragging that my cable bill used to be $150 a month and now I'm only paying $65, boy, it might start creeping back up there again.
Well, yeah, and I mean this has been what I think most analysts and most regular people have been seeing coming for a long time. Oh, it's great right now. I've got all these streaming services and it's cheaper than cable, and eventually to get all the channels you want, you're going to subscribe to all the streaming channels, and it's going to cost you as much as it costs you for cable.
Yeah, no.
Because once again, these corporations are not going to lose money. They're going to take it from you. Oh, we're not making as much in cable. We'll raise the streaming prices.
Yeah. Well, and it's not even just the big ones, the little ones. It was Acorn TV, which is all the British shows in my life. It was like $4 a month, and now it went up to like $7.50 or something. And I'm just like,
oof.
Okay, I mean, $1 raise, great, but you guys are like doubling prices, and then you're doubling prices, and it's like, okay, God, please, people, what are we doing here?
Well, and I would think that eventually someone's going to lose.
Yeah.
One of the small, will it be Peacock?
Yeah.
Will it be Paramount Plus? Will it be Acorn? I mean, at some point, some streamer is going to be the first one to truly go belly up, because people are not going to pay for it. They're going to start looking at their budget. They're going to say, what can we cut? And that's where you're going to find out what, which ones can stand on their own. And, and the more I think about it, Peacock and Paramount are being so subsidized by the larger corporations, through CBS and through NBC, that they probably won't be the ones.
Yeah.
Discovery has the whole Discovery Warner Brothers behind it, so it won't be them.
Right.
Yeah, I think it could be like an Acorn. It could be some specialized thing. I mean, Netflix and Amazon are out there on their own, and they're pretty big right now. But will somebody buy one of them? I mean, who knows?
Yeah. Well, all right. I mean, I'll. Amazon's easy because I pay for Amazon Prime. I get all of Amazon Video. That's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Yeah. You start thinking about Netflix. Netflix is that's a standalone. So do I cut it back? Do I have enough on the other services? I don't know, man. I guess there's only so much TV that one person can watch at some point. So you're like, maybe I rotate. I'll do a month here or 2 months here, and then I'll do 2 months there. I mean, I think people will start shopping a la carte at that point.
Oh yeah, and that was something I was thinking about this evening when I was watching Loki. I'm like, when was the last time I got on Disney Plus for fun? Like, because for me it's my job, right? I got to watch all this stuff.
Right.
But if it was just for fun, would I still have this subscription? Would I still need it? I mean, I think a lot of people are going to be thinking like that, especially because, let's face it, with inflation the way it is.
Oh, it's killing us.
And salaries are not going up and wages are not going up. Something's got to give.
My wife usually does the shopping, and I she was not feeling good, so I said, "Oh, I'll do it." I went to Costco, and man, did I get a rude awakening on I bought just meat for like 3 meals, like some stew meat, some hamburger, or whatever, and it was like $120 for the meat. I'm like, that's $40 a meal. What the hell is going on?
Insane.
It's just, the inflation is just, it's reaching and creeping. That's what it's doing. All right. Well, we'll see what gets dropped and what doesn't. Taylor Swift has actually been good for the NFL, which is about the only thing that's been good for the NFL, I guess, because all they do is shoot themselves in the foot continuously. But the Sunday Night Football game was a big hit.
That's right. Sunday night's football game featuring Taylor Swift as she watched the Chiefs and her supposed highest rated football game of the new season. They averaged 27 million viewers across television and streaming. And here's the Taylor Swift effect, my friends. Viewership was up 53% among ladies 12 to 17. It was up 24% among ladies 18 to 24. And for ladies over 35, it was up 34%.
So they're just watching Taylor.
I wonder why.
They're just watching
to watch Taylor.
Just to watch Taylor watch a football game. Oh my God! I mean, you could print money on that kind of thing. Why didn't she just? That's just. I mean, it's just crazy. It is crazy. And like I said, the NFL is not doing itself any favors. Then I saw something yesterday. It was just a flash of a headline. Something like Taylor Swift sneaks out in a popcorn cart or something. She actually exited the. I don't know if you heard about that, but it was just like
I've
what?
heard about that. The thought was, she had to sneak out of the stadium somehow and hid in a hollowed out popcorn cart. Now this is a callback to her tour. On the tour, she very publicly sneaks into the arena in like a cleaning cart. And so, she because she just can't like get to the stage from just a regular place. She has to cut through the crowd somehow. And so, they had a special cleaning cart that she hops in and they roll it across. And because they publicized it to everybody knows where the cart is. And when they see it, they know it's time to cheer. So, I guess it was all just part of the stunt. But you know what? The stunts are working. Hey, they just came out today. They made an announcement. Taylor Swift's new concert film has already sold $100 million in tickets.
That's insane, man.
I know.
Insane. Speaking of concert movies, Beyonce is trying to outdo her.
Yeah, good luck. I mean, I give Beyonce credit. I mean, she's got her little cult, just like Taylor's got her cult. Okay, and yes, Beyonce has made an announcement that her concert film for Renaissance will be premiering December 1st. And it's going to be kind of a mix of like documentary footage of behind the scenes, some videos that she's making for the concert film, and then, footage of the tour. And here's the part that gets me. Oof. The tickets. Oof. $22 a pop.
Oh man. And this is a long thing. 2 hours and 40 minutes or something.
2 hours and 40 minutes. Just like Taylor Swift's is like 2 hours and 45 minutes. And and just so you know, that of that $22, about half of it's going in Beyonce's pocket, baby, because her and Taylor got good deals from AMC to put these things together and to put them into theaters. So rich getting richer.
So Taylor's already sold $100 million she's already made $50 million. The film hasn't shown its first second yet.
Hasn't even shown it yet.
She's made 50. Oh man. Again,
and Beyonce will do real well.
Yeah.
she's not going to do too bad.
Yeah, but Beyonce does not have the following that Taylor Swift. Even I know that. That's
yeah.
Well,
but wow,
yeah,
it's crazy, man. It's crazy.
I mean, again,
we got in the wrong business.
I would give both of our monies away to take 5% of what Taylor's doing. All right, let's talk about the movies. Let's talk about the streams. Reptile, a new Netflix movie. I saw some rushes or something on this, and this looked interesting. Benicio del Toro, Justin Timberlake, Alicia Silverstone.
Yeah, and it's been kind of the number one movie all week on Netflix. I mean, people are really into this, and I can see why. It's an interesting mystery. It's Benicio del Toro. He's this detective in a small little town, and there's been the murder of a real estate agent. And while they think they've already figured out who did it, he's not so sure. And so he's going to keep digging and digging and digging. And the deeper he digs, the uglier it gets and the more shocking it gets. And when he finds out what's really happening, kaboom, your mind going to blow.
Oh, it's a blow. I think Benicio del Toro is an amazing actor. I love him. And him as a detective, that sounds like just my jam. So I'm looking at it. All
Yeah,
right.
and he's really good. And it's like a slow kind of, a slow boil kind of movie. I mean, I'll be honest with you, there's a lot of filler in here. It needs more story. There's a lot of, hints at what happened in his past and why he feels the way he does. And, him looking at evidence in long fashions as we go, wonder why that's important. Okay.
Right.
I'm at like 2.5 waffles. I think it's a good, solid movie. I think once it finally gets going, it takes off, and that's when it's really great.
Maybe could have benefited from a little more editing to tighten it up a little bit. Okay. All right. Now, so first I got to set the stage for this. The Exorcist Believer. This is the sequel to The Exorcist. Before you tell me anything, my wife is like, oh, man, I'm not hearing some good. She's very disappointed. She's really looking forward to this movie. She says, I heard some things that it's not that great. And she goes, tell me what Willie says. And I said, well, I don't know what he would know because he hated Guillermo del Toro's Crimson Peaks. So I don't know if he's a good judge of this. And she goes, oh, I'm sure that if he watched it again now, he would think it was amazing. So that's you should watch Crimson Peaks again and give me an update on that.
What she's saying is I need to watch The Exorcist Believer again. Is that it?
I don't know. I think she just wants you to watch Crimson Peaks and agree with her that it's a great movie. All right, The Exorcist Believer. Give me the details here.
Yeah, don't call it a sequel. Call it a carbon copy. Okay, I mean that's what really it is. They're just trying to pull up all the old tropes, all the exorcism stuff that you've seen like 100 million times before. So you got these two little girls, and they disappear for 3 days. Everybody believes they're kidnapped, and when they come back, they're different. They're more troublesome. They're showing signs of demonic possession. And now, guess what? We're going to have an exorcism. And, it's sad because, I feel like it's been done to death. And
Right.
We've seen all this before and we've seen it better. I mean, and it was shocking when it happened in the first Exorcist.
Sure.
We hadn't seen anything like that.
Right.
We hadn't heard that coming from a little girl. And now I hear that coming from little girls when I just walk past the schools. Okay. So, I mean, it's not like it's shocking anymore. And I think that, even bringing in Ellen Burstyn, bringing her back now, still playing the same character, now she's like gone out and she's trying to help people who have kids who are like demonically possessed. And I feel like I wasted all my time because I've been there before. I've done this before. I'm at 1 waffle.
Oh man. Now you watched The Pope's Exorcist. Was that much better?
Yeah, that was better.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
all right.
that was better. I still think the one of the I mean, first of all, The Exorcist is the greatest exorcism movie ever.
Yeah.
It's just so scary. I watched it once and I would never watched it again.
Yeah. Well, like you said,
I can't handle
it's so
it.
shocking. It's like you wouldn't see a Saw movie back then. You wouldn't see those kind of movies. And this movie was just so shocking to people. That's all right. We're running out of time. Loki, the series, season 2, 1 minute. Give it to me.
Yeah, that's right. Loki is back, and he's trying to save all of time, all of humanity, because time is just freaking out after what happened in the last season, and he's jumping through time, and he's got to figure out a way to stop it, and he's got to figure out a way to stop, basically how everything's freaking out, and he's got to stop Sylvie, his partner in the last season.
Oh no.
And the reason you're going to watch this is Kei Kwan, who is in here as kind of like the Q of the TVH. He is the guy who's going to help them as they go through this adventure, and he's hilarious. I'm right now at about 3 waffles. Let's see how it goes.
Oh, man. All right. Well, good. Well, we'll talk more about that later then. Willie Waffle, wafflemovies.com. Folks, we will see you on Monday. I have no idea what we're going to do. It'll be something. We'll see you then. Have a great weekend. It's been so long since the first season. I think I actually have to go back and watch because I remember it was intricate and there was a lot of different things going on. I feel like I need to go back and watch the first season again just to get caught up before I dive into this.
Yeah, and I think what helps is that there is a little recap at the beginning of the first episode, and I really feel like the first episode is a refresher to remind you like who these people are, what they were doing, what they used to believe in, what they found out, how it's blown their minds. I mean, all these people like Mobius and the other members of the TVH are all kind of sitting around realizing, oh my God, what we've been doing is destroying people's lives and destroying humanity. And I feel guilty about it. What can I do to stop it? What can I do to make good for it all? And I think that's going to be a recurring theme throughout the entire season. I think, Loki now, turning into this hero all of a sudden is going to continue in this season. And, I just think Kei Kwan is great. And you're just going to love him. He's so perfect in this character.
Well,
he's so good.
I know that I really enjoyed the first series. And like I said, it's been long enough that I'm getting old. I can't remember half the stuff that was going on. So I might just refresh to watch it. But, and of course, it's only dropping one episode a week anyway. So I might as well just watch the whole last season before I get into it because God. But anyway, okay. I'm happy to see. Was it got 2-3 episodes now?
Well, there's only one out, and there's going to be a total of 6.
Okay.
So they're moving fast.
All right. Well, that'll give me plenty of time because I think there was only 6 or 7 episodes in the last season. So I don't think.
There were like 6 in the last one too. Yeah. Isn't that amazing? An entire season is like 6 episodes. Well, like remember when it was like 39 episodes.
22
way back in the day.
I know.
Yeah, then 22.
We watched. My wife and I watched all of Alias again here a while back, about 6 months ago, and every one of those seasons was like 22 to 26 episodes long. And I'm like, that's a lot of TV. It took us months to watch it, but I'm like, okay. But I think they're doing now more the British thing. Their series, when they do a season, it's like 5-6 episodes, 7 episodes, but a lot of times they're doing hour and a half episodes. So it's it's like each one's a mini movie kind of thing. So I don't know.
It's amazing how this is why the actors want more money because they're getting less episodes.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's true.
Oh, I almost forgot to tell you the best story I heard today. You're going to love this.
Okay.
So the Drew Barrymore show announced that it's going to be returning to the air like next week or something.
Right.
And the 3 writers that worked for her said, yeah, you can do that without us. We're not coming back because in our moment of need, you were ready to go on the air and cross the picket line. See you later, Drew. Wow.
Man. Okay.
Wow.
Well, okay. To me, again, you know what that is to me? That's selfishness because it wasn't just the writers. It was every staff member, every grip, every director, every set dresser, every, a costumer, every makeup artist that was on that show was sitting out twiddling their thumbs and they're not getting anything extra out of all this. And so she was trying to keep the show going to keep all those other people employed. That's just pure selfishness, in my opinion. I can't say it any other way.
No, I see your point.
It's dickishness. It's being a dick is what it is. It's dickishness.
I'm going to throw this out there.
Okay.
Why couldn't the major production company that has money hand over fist, why couldn't they pay those salaries while they were on the sidelines?
There you go. I mean, why not? I mean, if you're going to be, something could have happened.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, and that's the thing. The ones that lose out on all this are all the ancillary people.
It's the regular people. Yeah. It's the hardworking people that can't afford to lose a paycheck.
Yeah. No, it's almost insulting at that point. And they were trying to find a way to make things work without busting the strike, without bringing, writers on. And it's just, again, don't be a dick. Too late. All right. That's it, my friend. What's next week? Quickly.
Next week, it's big streaming. It's The Fall of the House of Usher on Netflix.
The new Michael Flanagan joint. Oh, I can't wait.
Yep.
Oh, my wife.
Ed Frazier.
My wife is so excited. All right, my friend. Good to talk with you. We'll see you next week.
All right. See you then.
Folks, again, no idea what I'm going to do on Monday. Don't even know. I might just, I don't know. We'll do something. It'll be fun. Be here or else I'll come hunt you down in your sleep. That's just kind of weird, isn't it? We'll see you then.
We've shed our terrestrial radio skin, and now we are slimy lizard internet people. It's the Michael Dukes Show.